When are we doing the new hires in March? New hires like next week. Just about CPI. Should be not appreciated. I think it's still just so I know.
It's that first week. But hold on a second.
Okay.
It's
It's kind of hard not to miss that.
Bear with us, folks, just 1 minute, we'll get the show on the road here.
No, oh no, we don't,
No,
because we started the meeting over today.
Mr. Austin will be back in a minute.
Ms. Allen?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi,
Okay.
Kelly. Hey.
Is that Jane?
Yeah.
All right, sir. Okay, thanks, we're back from executive session. We're on to number 6, approval of minutes. I entertain a motion for June 14th, 2021 minutes, please.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second, discussion?
Is there going to, in the June 14 meeting minutes, there was a request to see the grade 6 longitudinal data. Is that available tonight? The 6th grade.
No, in terms of, we're waiting for the Linkit report. Once it's all in there, then we can disaggregate it. And you wanted to see where they were 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, correct?
Yeah, I think they only started at 3rd, right?
Right.
So 3rd through 6th.
Yes, 3rd through 6th, so we will have that ready for our next board meeting.
Okay.
Further discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kites? Yes. Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. McGivens?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. B, May 17th, minutes. Entertain a motion, please.
I so move to approve the May 17th minutes.
Second?
Motion and a second, discussion. Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice?
Yes.
Mr. Osley? Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McKibben?
Yes, motion approved, thank you. So we have some call to the public. Is there anyone on the phone from call to the public? Okay. Okay, we have 2 here. Carol Lindsay, you're up, please. Come on up, please, if you would. Got 2 minutes, and please, there's a script right
there.
I was concerned about something I heard on the news today about the Chicago School District and children as young as the 5th grade being given condoms everybody in the school is being given them, whether the parents know about them or not. And the statistics are showing that you give these kids condoms, more of them are gonna get pregnant. And the abortion mills are gonna be happy about that. And I'm just concerned that maybe here in this school district, are you guys thinking of doing this? That's all I wanna know. I'm not happy about even having to ask a question like that. But it just shocked me to hear what they did in the Chicago school district. And we may be a smaller place, but we're still important. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We can't respond, but Ms. Rico will do so. We'll get in touch with you, or please.
Thank you very much. I
We'll
appreciate
get
it.
an answer for you. Okay, Lou Sampson, please. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Lou Sampson, and last month I was here and Tom was talking about you're hiring a psychologist. And I thought, psychologist, counselor, K through 8. And then I went back and I looked at all the books that the counselor had ordered. And I read the synopsis of all of those books. And do you know, there's a lot of race, gender, sex. It really wasn't my idea of empowering students that a counselor in my world should be doing, but making more victims. And I started looking into the CRT curriculum, and it goes back decades and decades, and they just keep changing the name. And I thought if you hire a psychologist, of the school I taught at, the psychologist could label anybody. They give them a test, you can label them social or just learning disabled. And when I was teaching, they got more money. The more kids that they labeled, the more money they got from the federal government. I don't know if that's what you do nowadays or not. I don't know. But that was something I thought about. And it seems to me that we're subordinating our academics to all this social, emotional, other stuff. And we're getting behind. Our kids are getting behind. And I have a really good idea that I found. And I think instead of hiring a psychologist, maybe hire a martial arts instructor. How's that? Because a lot of kids learn and think differently. And kids said martial arts is an individual sport, and a lot of kids don't fit into team sports. And they never feel like they ever fit in. And martial arts builds confidence. They work towards goals at their own pace. And it's good for kids that just never feel like they can never win. It's broken into blocks so that they have to master one block before they go on to the next, to the next, to the next. And then in sequence, they get the whole motion. And they learn to think ahead. They have to learn to think. It emphasizes self-control and concentration. And it does help with their coordination. And it provides structure for in and out of school. And it's a safe way to get that extra energy out of kids that have ants in their pants. And they can kick and they can chop, but it's all self-discipline. And it's practicing self-control. And besides that, it's kind of cool when you have your little outfits and your pants. So that's another thought that's out of a box, but maybe we should be doing something out of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, no further?
No.
Okay. Thank you, folks. We appreciate your comment. You're up.
Okay, good evening. Thank you everyone for being here, and I'd like to especially welcome Ms. Stacy Schaefer-Beltram, our new special ed director, Bertram. And we have our new maintenance employee is Joe Bertram. So thank you.
Glad you're here. Thank you.
We got a good deal with both of them moving into Green Valley, so welcome to our board meeting.
Thank you.
So again, I just want to reiterate our theme for the year, focus on the big rocks. We have navigated through uncharted waters and have reached safe harbor. As a crew, we will focus on the big rocks and eliminate the unnecessary noise in the system, as we have been discussing. Focus on what we can control and what will give us the best results in increasing student achievement for students. A few summer academic support highlights from our program. We had 75 students who did attend and complete the program. Students were assessed in NWA math, reading and math, so we will have data in terms of how the students did in their, in the few weeks that they were here with us at our August meeting. Data, again, will be analyzed and determine the needs upon beginning the school year, so we will already know what our summer school kids who attended will need right from the get-go when school starts. Our student showcase was a success. It was well attended by parents, students, and staff, and you can see some of their work is displayed in the back, so we wanted you to be able to see some of the projects that they completed. And also had my great helpers, my granddaughter Kyrie said, Nana Roxy, give me some gloves and I'll help you serve EGs, and she actually did a really good job. And Aubrey, of course, Nathan, always willing to step in and help out to make sure that all our parents and students received a little treat at the end. AVID is Advancement via Individual Determination, and you all have the framework on your computers there. So we are very excited. AVID is a school-wide college and career readiness system. So we had a conference this past week and it was virtual. It specifies and guides what students need and what educators need to do. So in a nutshell, our students need rigorous academic preparedness. Like we were talking about, how do we improve and increase rigor for students in the classroom? It doesn't mean double the work. It means allowing them to think about thinking and to explore and wonder, and teachers asking the right higher level questions that kids need to ponder. Opportunity knowledge and building student agency, which we've talked a lot about in the last couple of years on mindset, and Carol Dweck's work on mindset and advocating for themselves. What educators need to do is insist on rigor, break down barriers, align the work, and advocate for students. So there's the AVID framework there for you to look at. There's a lot of research and videos on the AVID website as well. Here's just a list of our site team. So Mr. Magallanes will be serving as the district AVID director. We have Mrs. Cuevas, Ms. Bertha Membrilla, our middle school AVID elective teachers. So we will target students and have them commit for middle school years, 6th through 8th grade, and we're going to be teaching them how to organize, how to plan, how to take tests, how to take notes, how to study. And then we have Mr. Nathan, of course, our teachers, Ms. Tesso, Ms. Jones, Ms. Navarro, Ms. Claudia Fernandez, Ms. Montoya, and Ms. Grimes. So there's goals of AVID is to build an AVID school-wide model K-8. When AVID first started, it used to be called Gear Up for high school students, and then they added the middle school piece. Now, AVID has K-8, and they realized quickly that if we can get them younger and instill these organizational note-taking strategies, test-taking skills, they'll be better prepared for middle school and high school AVID. So there are WICR strategies which teachers will be trained on all year with writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. So we are going to focus on the organizational piece this year school-wide, and the team will select one more area of focus for the AVID elective class and the AVID teachers, which we're looking at in either being reading or writing this next year. Additional summer happenings, you can see our 2 vans have arrived, so we're excited that our staff will not be stranded on the side of I-19 when they have to get to a conference or go into Tucson. Our preschool playground was resurfaced, and I just want to thank again Mr. Nathan and who else came to help you? Mr. Kratzer.
Mr. Ferguson.
And Mr. Ferguson.
And Jesus.
And Jesus giving up their time because they had to clear out the whole entire area. What did you guys have to do in order for them to come surface it?
We had to move wood chips, bring in AB, take a plate compactor over it, compact it, and we had about 4 hours to do that.
And they did. And that's a true testament of our team working far beyond the call of duty always to get things done. So thank you, Mr. Nathan.
And Mr. Gregg helped line up plate compactors in the AB for us.
Thank you.
And I volunteered to go help, but I was in the
I told her to stay inside.
Thanks, Monica. Next time, bring your tennies and your
told me he was
clothes.
gonna give you some.
And we're really excited to have Joe on board.
Yay. Good. Enrollment update, so we've registered 623 students. There's 15 registrations still waiting to be entered. Miss Jenna just came back on board. Miss Eva's out, so we're working as fast as we can. We had 4 new families come pick up packets today. So that would be a total of 642 students, so we're less 13 students from the end of last year. So we're sitting pretty good because they're still coming in. Our coupon mitigation plan, our masks will remain optional during the school day. We are currently still going to require masks on the bus. And you can see there what the CDC is saying about masks being required. They're saying so far that the only way they cannot wear them is if they're 1 student to a seat, which we know is not doable. But we will continue to watch the data and reassess, and we are planning a special board meeting in July, so we will, at the end of the month, so we will have a spot on that board agenda to kind of update on where we are with that. As a reminder, this isn't the opportunity for questions or discussion, but if anybody would like a specific item to be as an itemized new business topic or old business on the board agenda, please let me know so I can add it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Entertained a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and second discussion?
Yes, I have a question, maybe a couple of questions on item 1 in the consent agenda. I probably should have asked this to be pulled, but I didn't know what Synergy EduPoint was, so I decided to Google it. Well, I understand the software for a student information system, but we're being asked to approve overnight travel and registration at a Synergy EduPoint conference and paying $500 to attend the conference and then $340 for a hotel room for each person. I mean, to me, that's, I think it's outrageous, $340. We're gonna be spending $680 for 2 nights in a hotel at the wonderful Westin Curland in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay. Why is this critically important? And why should we be paying almost $1,000 to each of our people that to attend this?
So this is our information system that we use that includes all of our discipline data, all of our special education data, our attendance. So what happens is with a new SACE clerk, she's gonna need training in how to operate the system so that she can continue to be updated with SPED needs. Also, Miss Jenna up in the front has been helping, and there'll be a vital piece to Miss Stacy Bertram's role also as the director in being able to know how to navigate and pull data in the system. So it is complicated and does require a training, and unfortunately, there's the registration fee and the hotel. I believe that's the hotel conference, right, that they recommend. That's
Right on
there,
conference.
where the conference is taking place.
I mean, a lot of software companies, if you buy their software, they provide training.
And that one does. That one does provide the training, and I looked at the conference, and the conference is really to demonstrate their new material. There are some in-person, hands-on opportunities, but more so along the lines of learning their new product lines, not necessarily the product line that we have.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Tice?
What are we voting on right now?
Consent
The whole
agenda,
consent
that's the whole.
agenda.
The whole consent agenda?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Osterly?
Yeah.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McDevitt?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. Okay, report items, number 10, district financial report, July 2. Sir, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. In your packet, you have the district financial report as of July 2nd. So this gives you a good idea of where we've ended the year financially, as far as our expenditures, our revenues, and all the great financial stuff. We will continue to give you the report from the previous fiscal year, simply because we will not be rolling our cash over until the encumbrance period ends in September. So we will not have updated figures in the new fiscal year until we actually do that fiscal year rollover. So we have what's called an encumbrance period, which is a period of time for expenditures that took place in the previous fiscal year that we are finally receiving the invoices on so that we can get those paid in the previous fiscal year. So just to give you a heads up, that the next few fiscal reports at the next few board meetings are going to be coming out of last year's numbers.
Entertain a motion to approve the financials, please. The district financial report, July 2nd.
I'll move that we approve the financial report as of July 2nd.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Well, I think, Mr. Schubert, if I can ask, we had a question last time about the $69,000 psychology,
Within
new
the budget, yes.
psychologist.
That was within the budget.
Yeah, and so I see that it's still, or is that in the budget? So
That's in the
not
budget,
this-
that's not
okay.
this, that's not this.
All right.
item. And I'll be more than happy to discuss that once we get to that agenda.
Okay.
Am I correct in a couple of entries on here, just on the overall M&O recap, that if I'm reading this correctly, we had approximately $337,000 of revenues over expenses for fiscal year 21.
You're
Am
looking
I
on
reading that
page,
correctly?
which page are you looking at? Page 1, sir?
Yes, in the M&O fund.
Okay, so it's showing the $6.18 million in the expense line?
Right, 6.5 in the revenue.
Yes.
Does that overage carry over?
Yes, actually it does. And what that does, it doesn't mean that it's money, that extra money we get to spend in the following year. It's money that goes towards lowering the tax burden on our voting public.
Can we put those up on our computers?
No, sorry, we're not able to connect to the dais.
It's not functioning today for some reason.
I think the
That's why we
storm
pulled
knocked
those
out
up.
our system.
Maybe we zoom in a little bit on that, or can we?
You should be able to.
There you go. Does that help at all? Is there a particular item you want
Turn
to?
it a little bit.
Maybe that can help. Help at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably zoom in a little more.
And, okay, and then the next page for the CSF, the Classroom Site Fund,
Mhm.
if I take all three sections of this thing, base salary, performance pay, so on and so forth, this appears to me that we spent $17,000 more than revenue.
Yes, we did.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have a follow-up question on the budget then.
The reason being is there was monies left over within Classroom Site Fund. There was more money left over from previous years than I am comfortable carrying. So that money was spent where it was supposed to be spent, was with the teachers.
Okay.
So, and that is why the payout was higher than the revenue.
Okay.
So one of the things that I don't see tracking so much are our salaries and our benefits. So that'll be up on the first page.
There it is.
Okay, so which part are you having an issue with, ma'am?
I'm not necessarily having an issue, but it seems like our employee benefits, well, I can't actually read those numbers, so I'm not even trying to make them up.
Well, I can read them. I knew, in the budget, employee benefits is a lot smaller percentage of salaries than it is in the actual expenditures. Significantly different. I mean, obviously, we budgeted $443,000 in benefits. We spent $530,000, so we were $86,000 over budget on benefits, yet we were $45,000 under budget on salaries. Normally, those kind of work in tandem with each other, do they not?
So the reason why we are over budgeted in salaries is because I have to budget it in, you know, we do have employees who make it overtime. So that's why you see an excess there, because we do have employees who are gonna run over their hours, and I have to budget for that. As well as any of the, remember we had that discussion about sick pay payouts and things like that. That's where that money's sitting. That's why you see that overage within the salary. Okay, and so you'll see that all throughout. So there's up here in the 1,000 job codes, the 2,100s, you'll see that all the way throughout, that there is excess within the salary. Okay, what we didn't do is, if you scroll back up a little bit for me. Up too far. Okay, right there with the employee benefits, yes, we overspent by $86,000. Okay, but that's covered within the rest of our budget. So yes, we missed that mark, but budgetarily, but throughout the budget, we are solid. You know, we still have another $400,000 within our M&O budget so we are still financially solid.
Well, that's 20%.
That's after the $86,000 shortcoming. We're still $400,000 so good.
Okay. Any questions?
Mrs. Allen?
Mrs. Allen?
Ms. Allen, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I am.
Okay, we're just calling for the vote.
Calling for a vote on financial report of July 2.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Tice?
Yes,
Mr. Austin?
Yeah.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McGibbon?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, new business. Okay, intergovernmental agreement between Vail and Continental for Beyond Textbooks.
So this is the intergovernmental agreement that we do annually with the Vail Unified School District for our Beyond Textbooks program to help with our scope and sequencing throughout our curriculum. This year, we're going to pay $7,980 for the entire school year. So we bring it to you tonight for your approvals of this IDA. There is no difference in the wording from any of the other ones that you've passed in the past.
I'd like to take a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the Beyond Textbooks expenditure to Vail School District.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What do we get besides, we just get access online or anything physical?
They do all of our curriculum calendars for the year in every content area, in ELA, math, science, social studies, reading. They also provide professional development support for us if needed. They hold an annual conference that we're invited to in terms of student engagement and analyzing data and best practices. So they're very supportive. They do a monthly newsletter as well with highlights on how we should be using Beyond Textbooks. They also, on BT, have many formative assessments that are available for teachers as additional resources to check for
mastery for students
But we
in every
don't get
content
access
area.
to the Neon textbooks.
Yes, it's so, and we did have a link for the board members to access. We can go in and see how they
Yeah.
calendar the standards, and they go by our calendar, and Escuelas works with them in order to make sure that we hit all the standards in the course of the year
Okay.
prior to
So that's how that
the
makes sense. I get it
assessment.
now. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I've had very little bit of experience with this program. I've talked to Dale about it. I guess it's growing in popularity. We were one of the first schools to utilize it outside of Dale. Something they developed themselves, and it's helped keep us a close relationship with them. And the feedback, most of the feedback from the teachers that I've heard is just their lack of training, and they are looking forward to having more time on Wednesday to get training for this program.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice?
Yes.
Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. McKibben?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. Revised governing board calendar for 21-22.
I'll move that we approve the revised calendar.
Second?
Motion and second, any discussion?
What's the, I mean, what conferences, and we're moving these, three meetings to Tuesday. It says, conference scheduling, who's involved in those?
So there's ASBA, the law conference, and then there's the principals conference as well. So as we went through the calendar to look at
I thought the law conference was in September.
there's one in September, and then there's the one in December.
Okay.
Our ASBA, our law conference is during that time.
Okay.
Other discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice?
Yes.
Mr. Osterly?
Approved?
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. McKibben?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. Updated support staff vacation and holiday dates. C.
So this was, again, as a result of being confirmed when classified staff asked for us to change their holidays, paid holidays, because they used to not get paid at all during spring break. So it didn't change the number of holidays that they get, but we took one day from rodeo and one day from, what was it, rodeo and Thanksgiving, so that they could have 2 paid days in spring break and they not have a whole week without pay.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the updated support staff vacation holiday.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice?
Yes.
Mr. Osterly? Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McKibben?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. Fiscal year 22 budget.
So, here we go. Yeah, you can go. Let's hope it works better than last month. So before you tonight, you have our adopted budget for your approval. The state still has, as the time was going on, I moved my vacation an entire week because I was waiting for the budget pages to come in. Have not still come in. We do have a September 15th deadline where we can make any revisions to our budget because of, a lack of actually having the actual documents updated to us. You will see that during the last meeting, we had a discussion about the salaries within the sped director salaries, how we had put it in twice. I have made the decision to go ahead and leave it there as contingency funds that can be moved around as a later date, because I already know that they're there and they're not to be touched. So that is why they are still there. Now remember, we are still up against that, that set limit, that aggregate limit. And by leaving that money there, that's money that I can just automatically pull away from if I have to. So that is why I made the choice to go ahead and sit it there. There's contingency money built throughout the budget. That is now just another spot for some more contingency funds. But other than that, the budget, on page, the actual M&O budget, you'll see there are some modifications that have been made that we, just move some money around within our M&O budget to other areas. And that was just to cover expenses that we didn't have last year and wanted to make sure we could cover for this year. So that is, it is basically the exact same budget. The only thing that's different is the cover page with the change of dates and a few changes within the M&O budget. So I bring that to you tonight for your approval.
I'll entertain a motion on the fiscal year 22 adopted budget.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion and second, discussion. Questions?
I've got a few questions, but I'll defer to some of my other board members that would like to go before me.
Go ahead. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Schubert. But if I'm one of my constituents and I'm looking at the agenda, I think I would have a question as to why support services and general administrative expenses are up like 43 and 37%.
So, okay.
So hang tight, I know why they're there, because we duplicated things in both the SPED and the regular instruction budget. I understand why they're there. My problem is if a constituent asks me, why are you budgeting twice for a SPED director? I would have a problem saying, well, you know, we like to build in contingencies, and so we have more flexibility in how we spend money. And so we're just leaving a duplicate amount in the budget just to allow us that flexibility. I would have a major problem in answering that to a constituent. So I can't support it. We're budgeting for a SPED director, we should budget one time for a SPED director. Period. That's how I feel. Now, if we have until September, before we have to submit a budget, I'd be happy to table this whole thing until the August or September meeting.
We have till September to provide a revision, not an adopted budget.
Okay.
So-
The adopted budget has already been submitted, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it is
Now,
not.
this is the adopted.
This is, what did we submit on July,
That
or
was the
June
proposed.
15th?
That was the proposed.
And so now this is the change,
This is-
and we still have the same issues?
I don't understand how you can see those as issues. Okay, so let me ask you this, so let's just put this in perspective. Within your own household income, do you have your investments, you have your savings accounts and things like that, yes? I don't have those luxuries, okay? I can't tell you exactly what I'm going to spend over the next year. I can't tell you that I'm gonna have to dig a whole new well that's gonna cost me $120,000. I can't tell you that. I have to build in contingencies because I don't have that savings account or those investments to fall back on. So there has to be contingency built in to a budget. I can't say that after the 100th day, when my funding is set, I'm gonna go have to hire a new teacher because I had 40 new kids show up. So I have to build in contingencies. I have contingency built throughout the budget. So that is why I chose to leave it there, is because now I've got contingency. I've got things this school year that I've never had to deal with before, or any other person in my positions had to deal for, and that's the state aggregate limit. I don't know if I'm actually gonna get this money come our 100th day. So I have to build in that contingency.
Well, you know, I'm beginning to question then why we need a budget at all. We're gonna get so much money from the state, whatever comes in, then, and what you're saying is we're gonna spend it in any way we want, or what any way we need to. Apparently, we've got 337,000 that's carried over from this year.
One moment, Ms. Allen.
Apparently, we've got 337,000 that's gonna be carried over from this year, which was revenues over expenses. That to me is a pretty good contingency.
But what that goes to, that doesn't mean that I get to spend an extra $300,000 this year. It means it lowers the tax burden next year by that amount.
But
Because
we
I'm
had
carrying
classroom
that
site
amount.
fund money that we carried.
Two totally different
I
issues.
understand.
We're talking apples and oranges.
Well, I have a major problem in double budgeting for a SPED director. I just do. That's.
Greg, I have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Let's just say you didn't have to spend that extra allocated money, for the sped director. Sorry about that. But you have kind of an unofficial contingency there. Where does that go? Does that kind of credits back to the tax burden, right? If it's unused?
I'm not sure I'm 100% understanding the question.
Well, so the budget for the sped director has been essentially doubled or double accounted for, right?
Correct.
And we're only planning on using one allocation.
Correct.
So in theory, barring no emergencies, there's going to be the other part left over. What would happen to that?
It could be reallocated as needed, which is why it's as a
And-
contingency. So if,
No, I completely agree with that part. I work in finance. I worked in finance for 10 years, and I definitely love contingencies. But let's just say there's nothing that's needed. What would happen to it? Say it's left over.
so it would be just like it is with this year, with the extra $300,000 that's left, it goes to lower the tax burden on the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. All right. I'm pretty familiar with that concept and have explained it to many laymen before. So I get it, and I get it for our constituents.
And we are a donor district, is that correct?
Yes, we are.
So we are really reducing the tax burden on our constituents. However, we are still donating our funds
Yes, we
to
are.
support other school districts, correct?
We are.
So, I mean, I look at the budget, Greg, and I go down, and when I see increases of 448%, I just, looking at that, I think, my goodness, we're either really bad at budgeting, or we need to do something to get a little bit closer. I can see.
So, go to page.
And what if you aren't here? What if you get that balloons and red roses guy showing up at your house and you leave? You've got that 69,000 plus the benefits, it comes to a total of 83,000. And you've got that sitting there and you know it's a contingency, but maybe somebody else doesn't.
I love it, Mama.
So, I know people's word doesn't mean nothing anymore, but it's all that I have to my life. If that guy showed up with red roses and a giant check,
Still coming in, huh?
I'm still here.
All right.
I-
We've got it on video.
So,
I mean, let's be honest, I rearranged my vacation schedule to be here today. And it wasn't that I showed up at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I've been here since just before 8. So, if the guy shows up, first off, I'm gonna be curious as to why he's showing up at my house with the red roses and a big check. But no, I'm here.
I'd like to see us get some of these numbers a little bit closer. I'm looking at 73.5% increase. I went out and
Which
just,
which page are you on? It's only-
well, I can't really see that far, so
Well,
I'm looking at.
on your page there, which one is it?
Line 18, right at the top.
yeah, I think it's 18.
If you just run down some of these
Okay,
budgeted
so
amounts.
when you look at those are gonna be our school-sponsored events and our athletics that we didn't have last year.
Right,
So-
that's not a good example. I mean, let's go find some others where, because we have many others. I mean, it's nice to see the 2%, the 4%, things like that. But, when we start getting up into the 20s and the 30s and then the 448 or something.
So you talk 28.5% within pupil transportation.
Mhm.
Okay, so there, we still have an aging fleet. So we are taking preparations to take care of that aging fleet. We've got a total of 10% across the board when you're talking within regular education. And that's taking into account that 36% increase in general administration that has the second sped director salary within it. So you're talking within the entire category, a 10% increase. You're also seeing a 9% decrease in instructional staff, you're seeing a 3% decrease in schools administration. So we have accounted for quite a few things within our budget. When you're looking at it overall as a 10% within the category, you're right in line with where things should be. If you go down into special ed, scroll down a little bit for me, Ms. Monica. You're looking at a total, okay, that's good. You're looking at a less than 3%, because you're looking at 8.8% within, and that's including, so you're looking at 8.8% within special education. That's including a brand new director. Okay, if you scroll down, we got, the 28.5% in transportation. You got like 12% increase in K-3 reading, and that's just because that's the way that.
Well, there's 10 pages there, and I've gone
Yeah.
through all 10 pages, and maybe what we should do is have a study session with the budget, rather than just try and ask questions from something that's 30 feet away. Just to have a good understanding, because when I went through the budget, you know what I was looking for? I was looking for funding that will maximize student achievement. And I got to gifted and talented, and I saw zip. I got to instructional services, I think I saw zip. Now, I realize you can move money around. This is just a plan. But you know where I want to see my money? I want to see my money going to improve student learning and student outcomes.
So I can tell you this, in the future, because now they are going to be giving us funding for gifted, we actually have to identify students as gifted to get that funding.
Absolutely.
And right now, we don't have anybody identified as gifted.
Right.
So.
Because we haven't tested them yet.
Correct.
So, but, there's some other things in there. There's a pretty significant decrease in our Title I funding.
Yes.
So I'm just taking this off the top of my head, but there's 10 pages of stuff. Maybe I just recommend that next summer that there's a study session.
I would, to be honest, I would be more than happy in April to sit down as a study session to go over how the budget's created and everything else. I'd be more than happy to do that.
And I think that would be good, because, our strategic plan, we talk about our strategic plan and improving student outcomes, but then we don't link it to our budget. So if you're not going to assign it some resources, it's not going to happen. And that's what I'd like to see. Whatever our learning outcomes are, they need to be assigned to a goal, the goal being improved student achievement. That goal needs to be addressed in that budget somehow. That's what I'd like to see. And I know it's a detailed document, and it's up on board docs, and everybody will probably want to go home and download it right away.
It's great reading at night.
Right. But I do think that normal policy is to link your budget to your strategic plan and your annual performance plans. And I see a disconnect here right now.
Couple more. Can you go to the cover page? This shows that average teacher pay,
Okay?
48,479.
Go over to your right a little bit.
Does that include classroom site fund money?
That does not include classroom site fund money.
Does it
That
include-
includes stipends. So if a teacher is also a committee chair or a coach or,
Okay. And that's included in that?
That is included.
What about the retention bonuses that came? What was that?
that is not included.
That's not included there either. Okay. Page 3 on the classroom site fund. This looks to me like we had $148,000 of unexpended classroom site fund money.
Yes.
yet our expenses were over revenue
Yes.
for the last fiscal year.
Yes.
So how can we have $147,000 of carryover?
Because there was a lot of money sitting in funds 11, 12, and 13 when I started. Okay, I gave out, what was,
I thought we spent all of the classroom site.
we
fund
did
money.
not spend all of it.
Apparently not 147,000 of it. So with the budget,
Oh, hold on, just give me 2 seconds.
with
What
the-
page,
with the budget of $738,000 in the classroom site fund for next year, if you go to the summary, page 2, it looks like we've got 42 employed teachers.
yes,
So we're talking about, if we were to pay it all out in 301 money, another 17 grand per teacher. Pretty handsome.
yes,
And so we would be having our teachers not at 48, but if we added classroom site fund money, they'd be up in the high 60s.
possibly, they could,
Okay.
they could quite conceivably be.
And I'll tell you, I'm all for that, if our students are.
Also, I also need you to remember though, this is the highest amount classroom site fund has ever been in the history of classroom site fund.
Okay,
There's about $355 per weighted student count of one-time funding in here that we will not see next year. So if I would like to keep and retain teachers, I wouldn't spend that entire amount over the course of the year. I would leave it there for when it goes back down to still be able to give a higher 301 payment.
okay, my only point on this thing is I think that saying that our average teacher salary is $48,000 is not really representative of what their actual earnings are.
I based the average teacher salary as it has been in the past. That way it doesn't skew anything going forward. So if they would have included classroom site fund in past figures, I would have as well. Okay, but since it had not, in order to keep apples to apples, I did it the way it had been done in the past.
That's fine, I understand.
Okay.
And the last one I have, and I understand, you mentioned that the proposed budget last month, we have, it's in some other funds, the fund for extracurricular activities, the tax credit, this is on page 6. Significantly reductions, gifts and donations from 352,000 down to 61. And you said, well, no reason budgeting for it if we didn't spend it.
Correct.
Is our revenues haven't gone down
No, they
anywhere
are
near
not,
like that.
but we haven't spent the money. Okay, so when I based and these are all those 500 numbered funds, these are all cash controlled funds. Okay. I budgeted it towards what we had spent the previous year. Okay, because I don't have anything, I don't have a basis to go off of what a normal continental school year could look like. Okay. Within those 500 funds, I can increase those budgets as long as the cash is there to do so. So as we go through the year, and we bring you a proposed budget or what's the word I'm looking for? I've lost it. A revised budget later on in the year, you may see those numbers go up because we still have that cash and we can spend it.
Okay. Last question, page 5, capital detail. And I might be not understanding the definition here, but I'm looking at redemption of principal.
Yes.
$210,000 prior year, 0 this year.
Yes.
Aren't we still paying off bonds?
We are, but we are not paying them out of Fund 610. It's coming out of
What
Fund
is
700.
610?
610 is our capital fund. Okay, so our redemption on bonds and bond principal is coming out of Fund 700 and 701.
Okay, so
that's why it was not there.
what is that $210,000 that we spent in prior year?
That wasn't actually spent, that was the amount that was budgeted. I'd have to look at the AFR to actually say,
Okay,
to
thank
tell you
you.
what was actually spent.
Thank you.
I have a question. So, you have $300,000 surplus, right?
Yes.
Give or take. And I've sat here and told the teachers, and several others have, that we're gonna give back everything we can,
Yes.
and we're not. And we've had the community pass the override. I know we need to keep a slush fund in case we need an emergency teacher or whatever that might be. But I think to be able to pass back, it is, when we're scraping pennies together and we've said to staff and teachers, this is all we got, man, and we're not doing it. And that I don't understand how that happened. Somewhere we're halfway through and we say, hey, look, we've got this extra cash, and it looks like that cash. I get you're getting the one-time COVID money and all that. I don't mean that part. But we have it in our normal funds, and it is set up to continue. I don't. The constituents, 300,000 isn't going to be
And I believe what we have said to the teachers is once we knew what budget, the budget allocation and what we had for the revised budget, that then we would decide
Yes.
and look at whether we could afford to do the 2 or 3% raise, because right now we didn't give any raises at all because we were waiting for the budget amount. And then the money that we have in contingency, since we know that the site funds would go strictly for classroom teachers, then we would use the additional funds for classified staff so that everybody across the board could get the same percentage raise, which is something that,
Yes.
you know, we've taken pride in being able to do that with our staff, and the teachers feel very important that whatever percent raise they get, that classified staff gets as well.
Because what we're really waiting on, the truth be told, what we're really waiting on is the statewide 100-day to find out if the amount that that budget says is what we're going to get. And if it is, great, I've got plenty of money to do raises.
And that's what we were saying would happen in January after the 100
So do we think we're gonna get the 300 back, so to speak, to lower the tax burden?
That said and done, that's last year's budget. But with this budget,
How are we that far off? I thought we had $100,000 contingency fund. I mean, that's 200 spread over, even if you did the whole population, that's a lot of money.
yes.
Okay, any further questions? Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kites?
Yes.
Mr. Osterman? Mr. O'Leary?
No.
And Mr. McGivern?
Yes, the motion passes, thank you. Okay, approval to issue a change order for Reliant Well Drilling and Pump.
Yes. So, at the last board meeting, we had you guys approve a purchase order to Reliant. And they came in and our well pump is in worse shape than we thought. We'll click that link, and then once the video pulls up, we're gonna fast forward this quite a ways through.
We're down almost to the end, last 30 seconds or so. Well, last couple, 2 minutes.
Go down. Oh, too far.
All right,
Right about a little bit further back.
there.
That'll be good. So this is at a depth of 383 feet within our pump, within our well, and that is a cable sitting in the middle of it. Our water line at this pump, well pump is 353 feet. This was originally dug to 505 feet, so that would say we've got plenty of water. Until, I'm gonna have Monica see if she can scroll through that a little bit faster.
About 397, I think.
403.
And we start to see the.
Oh. Okay, good plug there. So that again, that's a piece of that pipe, or the cabling sitting in there. Along the side are barnacles. I don't remember at this depth if it had any of the giant holes that are in the side, or if it had any of the cracks.
Right
further.
there, there's several. The reason I'm saying, I reviewed this several times, so that's why I'm commenting on it, gone through this video.
And we see a Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, you can see it.
So you're gonna see a giant monster here in about
Big sea-
15 feet.
There's one right there.
Yeah, there's a giant barnacle.
There's a hole, so.
There's about a 4-inch gap.
How old is this pipe?
When did we have this well put in?
Okay.
So the bottom half, who knows, it's probably original when that was put in. I've been here 15 years. and
1978,
It was before then, so 78 probably.
yes. My father was part of the process.
Okay.
He told me 78, 79 in that range.
Just for the general public, I'll add that this is not the potable water. This is for irrigation purposes only. So our water that we still have and are using, that we get that through FICO.
Fields and stuff. You're almost to the, yeah, you're just about to the bottom here. Pretty quick. In fact, I think you can see it from here.
I feel like I'm looking at my circular.
I know, I feel like going to science class.
Trying to decide if you need a stint.
Yeah. Or an optical assessment. That's what
And there she is, at 403 feet. A giant chunk of concrete with a piece of rebar sticking out of it.
If I may comment on this, I have a well right up the hill here, that did the exact same thing. That is not concrete, that is a collapsing well. And we've lost 100 foot. We've lost 100 foot of the well. And in my opinion only, just because I've experienced this, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, we won't have any water. Because we've gone from 150 to 160 foot of actual static water level. We're down to under 50 feet now. We're in the 48 or 9, somewhere now, roughly 50 feet. And I came down and I met with the well driller and had a discussion, we've gone through all this. And just the fact that there's the wire and you see the quite a bit of rebar in there. Unfortunately, in the past, we weren't treated very well quality-wise on some of our well work. That's remnants of things that should not be in there. It's very unfortunate, let's put it that way, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you can go check it out. So with that being said, we have two options, and I presented to you tonight for the approval of one of those options. The option that I did not bring to you is to decommission this well, recommission a new well, and start all over, which is twice the price of the item that I brought before you tonight, which is to dig it down to
700, I think.
700 feet. So it would, and then put a new liner on it. Correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. But put a new liner within inside of it, a new pump, and we can have our water back. Because right now, we have been about 2 months without water for our fields.
I think it's important to note the condition of the walls of the well, because you can't expect a well, in my opinion, you can't expect a well driller to go in there and guarantee putting in a new well and putting a tap into the well and drilling and expecting those walls to be sufficient for long enough for that person to stand behind their product, regardless of what it drills now. That's what he's talking about, a liner. You'd actually go in with a smaller diameter and more or less have a new well within a well. You would have less quantity of water, but it's still 50 plus gallons a minute. It's far sufficient for the needs of the school.
Can we add that the reason why we think that that's okay, that we're going smaller in diameter? Several years back, correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, but I think 6 years back, FICO donated a huge storage container. And so we're not trying to keep up with the output of the sprinkler heads themselves. We've simply, you know, that they come on twice a day typically. And so we believe that even a smaller, a reduced size of well would keep up because we have that storage tank. So when it's not in use, the well would be pumping, filling that, and we'd have plenty. And then we also have, a lot of times you'll use a well to create the pressure to run the sprinklers. We actually have 2 pressure pumps outside of that storage tank, which is generating the pressure to run the sprinkler heads themselves. And so that's why we believe that by reducing that, it's A, cheaper for us, but then B, we would be able to keep up with the water usage because of, once again, thank you to FICO for donating and bringing in and installing that, but put it in that very large, I don't remember what the capacity is of that,
I
but
believe it's 25,000, 22 or 25,000. It's significant. It's a big.
yeah, it's a big tank, so that is sufficient for our needs, and that's,
If you didn't have that tank, every time you turn on a spigot,
the well would.
the well would kick on to pressurize the system. And in my opinion, the lifespan of that well would be
Would go down.
significant.
What's the warranty?
What's the liner made of?
I wanted to say you said 10 years, was that it?
I don't think it's 10.
I don't have it in front of me, so.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I want to say 5. Anyway, I asked Greg to show that video so you have sort of a visual. I'm a visual person, I need to see those things. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the change order for this one.
I'll move that we get a new well. Or that we purchase, as the liner, as change. Sorry.
Yeah, the new well's double the
Liner and liner.
Yeah, just to approve the change order would be perfect as far as a motion.
Is that your motion?
As presented here. as item E.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion, questions?
Just a question, we got 3 bids for the original one that was presented last month.
Yes.
Did we get more bids this time?
We don't need the 3 bid because it'd be a change order to the original bid. So each of those contractors that provide us a proposal would have done the exact same thing as this. And then even if they were $10,000 less, this company was still less because of how much they charged for the original.
And second question, is this something for the
No, it is not.
facilities board?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Trust me, if it was, I'd be over here with a big old smile on my face saying, yeah, but it's not.
Thank you.
And just as a reminder, the school facilities board can only be used for things dealing with students. Okay, so anything classroom related.
Well, water kind of is important to our kids.
It is, except this is non-potable, so it does not fall under. So to give you an example, if the air conditioning went out down the administrative wing, that would not be a school facilities board issue, that would be an us issue. Okay, because it is non-utilized space by students.
Further questions?
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kice?
Yes.
Mr. Oshily? Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McGivern?
Yes, motion passes, thank you. Approval to purchase a new school bus.
So, here we go. We would have actually brought this to y'all in January or so, but I met with Mr. Lane and Auto Safety, they're our representative from Auto Safety House, and they have a deal going on right now where they have to sell 25 to 30 new buses, and they are doing those at reduced prices. So instead of waiting until the January timeframe to do this, it is of my opinion that we jump on this now, get in on that lower pricing, and have that new bus here by January or so. So I bring this to you guys tonight for your approvals.
How much of a discount is it?
It's actually about $10,000 less than what it would be in January.
Okay.
And just to give you an overview, and because I know that some people are visual, this is what would be considered a travel bus. Okay, so it would have a conventional front end nose on it. It would have store tracks underneath on the exterior. They will not go through, all the way through, because of the drive line that cuts through the center. So we will have the raise up doors here, so we can put things underneath, and, you know, it will also have the inside storage, and it also has air conditioning. Those are the main important ones. We've also added some safety features on it, so Mr. Lane, do you want to talk about the added safety
Yeah,
features?
so what we're moving forward, what we're wanting to do is what they call, it's like a 360 camera program on the buses. One for driver safety, turn signals, reverse. You can see a 360 view of the bus in the student mirror, as well as additional safety cameras inside the bus to get a better viewpoint of what's going on with the students, with more enhanced speaker programs, we can actually hear what's going on. With the new camera systems, we can actually, I have 3 cameras in the bus right now, and I can't see things when behavior issues are happening. By adding the 4 cameras going into the new buses and the way they're developed, I can actually get a viewpoint and see like 6 seats in a row, and I can zoom in. If a student had a phone, I can zoom into what they're watching on their phone and see what they're doing. So, and here.
Yes, they have all the.
And then the sound quality on these are much better. So when we get the accusation that Sally called Jesse a jerk face,
Yeah.
you know, we can actually hear Sally call Jesse a jerk
That's
face.
just
I was impressed with the air conditioning, I never even had air conditioning.
So with the new buses going in, we're looking at doubling our fuel efficiency from what some of our buses currently have, going from 3 miles, 3.9 miles, up into the 8s and 9s. We're looking at emissions, being better emissions as we move into the future. One of the things we have to look at is our emissions, and the bus is going through, that's why they're pushing for everything to be electric here soon. And then the different safety features inside, the way the seats are built and everything else. So,
Entertain a motion to purchase new buses. So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Are we in compliance with board policy on bidding?
Yes. So this is actually through a purchasing cooperative. It's through Omnia Partners, which we are a member of. And we did get pricing from
Canyon State Auto.
Canyon State, which provides Bluebird buses. And they were much higher than that $164,000 originally. So we did look at multiple vendors, and they both are on purchasing contracts, so.
Okay.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes,
Mrs. Kice?
Yes?
Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
And Mr. McDermott?
Yes. Thank you, motion passes. July, August, board events, school events. Okay.
Lots of exciting events occurring. We are going to change the July 27th governing board sponsored staff breakfast to the 29th. That's when all of our drivers and classified staff are here for the first day. So you can please note that change, and Ms. Monica was sending calendar invites to you with that change as well. And we're also requesting a special board meeting that morning at 7:30 or 7:15 so that we can approve a consent agenda of late hires. We still need to hire, we're still looking for our school psychologist and our middle school ELA teacher. So, and some bus drivers that will be approved as well on that date. And to also discuss the update on the COOP plan.
So you want 7:15 on that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and the OTPT bids, we just did an RFP, so it closed today at 4, so we need to go through those bids and hire our OTPT, and our school psychologist also did submit.
So the special board meeting is on the 27th?
Well, we could change it
Or
to
the
the
29th?
29th, yeah,
Yeah.
since you're gonna be here for breakfast, then we could just meet at 7:15 and then go straight to the cafeteria. for
Okay, I didn't know whether we were
Yes.
invited or whether we were just paying for it.
No, you're invited.
I sent you calendar.
No, we want your money and your
invites this
presents.
afternoon.
And it is an opportunity for board members to speak and welcome staff and new members, and we'll do a little activity like we did last time on just a kind of short who's who, but a good time to fellowship and share have our new staff members welcome.
Are the July 28th items available for board members also?
Yes,
Okay.
and Monica has posted them, so if you're all there, it's okay.
Okay.
And we are having our staff meet and greet at the Arizona Family Restaurant, so please join us if you can as well, July 28th. It's after our school meet and greet, 6:30 to 8:30. And some of you were there last time for karaoke and good time, taco bar.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, thanks. You have any more information? Guys, you're up.
Well, I think everybody's got a little bit of breathing time here in July, getting ready to start school, and it looks like everything's off to a pretty good start, so congratulations, best wishes. Looks like by the time we meet again, school will have, or will be ready to start. That's it.
Mrs. Allen.
Welcome Stacy and Joel, our the director and maintenance staff. Fed is very near and dear to my heart, so if there's anything you ever need, my inbox is always open. And I wanted to say I attended the end of the summer school event, and it was so much fun. There was so much enthusiasm from all the students. Everyone was just very relaxed, and it definitely had a different vibe. And I think it really was very good for the students that attended our summer school program. I think it's different than anything I've ever seen. And so thank you everyone for everything you put into it.
Good. Sir?
Welcome to our
Thank you.
new staff.
Very glad.
Forward to working with you. I'm just looking forward to what I hope is somewhat of a regular year, beginning next month. And
I agree.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Sir?
I would agree with Rich, but there was a editorial in the Green Valley Paper Sunday by Annie Krusler talking about public education. I just want to read a little snippet of it. The Arizona legislature has finally adjourned after passing the budget that again fails to support public education. With a fiscal surplus of about $2 billion, there is great hope that our legislators will use that money to fully fund public education and bring our states ranking up from 49th in the nation to at least midway. And then it goes on where they are using that money and whether you agree with it or not. But the last paragraph I'll read is, those state legislators who voted for the tax cuts likely believe that lower taxes will attract more businesses to Arizona. They ignore the reality that businesses need a well-educated workforce. Our state representation and low ranking for education may actually deter business from relocating here, regardless of the tax shelter. So I just wanted to be on record for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's been said, I'm excited for a new year, and boy, if we don't have to deal with a coup plan and COVID and all that nonsense, that would just be outstanding. Let's hope for the best and let's move forward. So thank you folks for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll recess to sign some documents.
Yes, sir.
With that in mind, thanks folks. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.